Hello, I'm back with making the social distancing simulation. This is where we've gotten to so far in our videos, and this was our goal. We can have people start moving around, infection spreads. If this person ever runs into somebody in time, yes, there they go. Okay, the infection spreads and people are recovering and turning green. We could see the same thing happening over here. I think our speed was initially a little faster in our simulation, and we'll get to editing that. But what I want to work on in this video is adding these left-hand sliders, which change the distance that people can move and changes the recovery time and changes the size of the shapes, just to show us we can do all these things dynamically. We'll probably do size first and then add in the other ones, recovery and distance. And I want to put in the time steps too. Okay, so let's get back to our code. We have the initialize and the reset here in the controller. This is where we're going to have to add in some new pieces to set up our different connections. So let's go back to scene builder. Okay, scene builder on the left is where we want to put a vertical box. V box goes on the left. And in that vertical box, let's start adding in our labels and sliders. Okay, we'll just drag a bunch of them in right now. Label, slider, label, slider, and a label and a slider, and then a label and a text field. Okay, so what do we want these labels to say? This one is going to talk about the size. This one's going to talk about the recovery in seconds. And this label is going to be talking about the distance somebody can move. And this one is going to be recording in the ticks how many time steps have gone by. Okay, so in the vertical box itself, we can talk about the layout a little bit. We do want some spacing in between all these pieces. That separates it out. And then we also want to go into each of these sliders. And these sliders have some really cool properties on them. You can specify the minimum and maximum value on the slider. Whenever the slider is all the way to the left, you have a minimum. Sliders all the way to the right, you will get the maximum. And then it's going to be an interpolation in between the two for the sliding back and forth. And so for our size, we want them, what we had them before was from 4 up to 10. So let's go ahead and put those in here. Minimum value is going to be 4. Maximum value is 10. And we'll start it off at a value of 4. And these two boxes right here, I want to show the ticks on there. And I want to make my major tick unit a little small. I'm going to make it every 2 so that here it shows 4, 6, 8, 10. We have a good scale of reference over there. Okay, we want to do the same thing for the recovery. For the recovery, it was from 2 to 8 seconds. So if I say from 2 to 8 seconds, let's have it be at 5 to start off. And then on 2, we have 2, 4, 6, 8 in there. Great. So our distance, 10 to about 200 is what I was saying before. Show those tick marks. And we can start to see them in there at their spots, 10, 60, 110, 200. That's going to pretty much match what we had. Now, this was a little wider in our original one. we can go up to our vertical box, make that width a little bigger, maybe 150 here. 150 is a little big, maybe 120. That looks better. Okay, so each of these is going to need a nice name to be able to talk to it. And I do want to add a little bit of editing on here. I don't want it to be editable for my ticks. Nobody should be typing in numbers. This is something generated by the simulation. Okay, so that gets everything set up in Scene Builder. Make sure we save our changes. And we can go back to try to set up the connections in the controller. So let's see where we are here up at the top. Let's start making some connections for our sliders. FXML, slider, the size slider. We don't know what that is. Import the class. Great. Copy and paste that a few times here for our 3 sliders. We have our recovery slider, and we have our distance slider. Okay, those are here, ready for us. We need one more that we just added, FXML for our text field. And let's import that text field, JavaFX always, and we are ready to start making those connections. So if we go back out to Scene Builder, hopefully things start to refresh, and we can click on our slider and say, what is your piece here? You are the size slider. Perfect. And recovery, you are the recovery slider. And distance, you get to be the distance slider. And the text area here, you get to be the tick text. Okay, perfect. Save it once more. And we get to go back and hey, look, these are connected. That's how you know when things are working. We are ready to go. Okay, so let's change these one by one. Here in Initialize, I want to start doing stuff with my sliders. So before I get anything else going, let's talk to my size slider. Here is the way to make it so it automatically updates as you move. I couldn't figure out how to do this in Scene Builder. We have to really be adding a listener with a method here. And so we're going to say, hey, value property, add a listener. And this is going to be a new change listener. Whoa, it added all of that stuff for us. So it says, I'm a change listener, and here's what you are. When things change, what am I supposed to do? Well, I'm going to encapsulate everything in a nice method called setSize. Let's write that down here. Public void setSize. Okay, so when the size slider is changed, I need to set the size. And remember, the size was back here in the person. Person had a radius, a nice static integer. We started off at 5. Well, let's make it be exactly what is being set here in the controller. So person.radius, let's make sure we import person, equals size slider dot get value. Perfect. Needs to be cast to an integer. Awesome. So let's try to run this and see if we can make them larger and smaller with our slider. Those 2 pieces should be what we need. Reset. I should be able to make them larger and smaller. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it happen. There's one thing that happens. It probably is changing that value, but we didn't tell them to draw. So we need to say, hey, simulation, draw everybody. Let's try that. And we get it loaded. Here's everyone. Let's make them a little bigger here. Perfect. Okay, we are starting to see them get smaller and larger as we go. So as this is changed, we are going to be able to make our circles larger and smaller for our people. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get this wired up for the other two. We have our size slider, calls a set size method. Let's just do a little bit of copy and paste here. We don't want to do the other sliders, right? Recovery slider. Not disable buttons, I want distance slider. Perfect. So now all three of these have this callback, this listener. When you drag it back and forth, what do I need to do? Well, I need to set recovery, and I need to set the distance. Okay, so let's set the recovery time down here. Right here, public void set recovery. Perfect. This was also inside the person, wasn't it? Person.healTime equals, let's talk to the recovery slider, dot get value. Now, one thing here, well, it needs to be an integer, but this value is in seconds, right? This is how we're talking about it. 2, 4, 6, 8. This is how we want to think about it being our value. Well, over here, heal time was 5 seconds times 50 because there were 50 ticks per second. So we've got to multiply that 50 again. Now, here, I have 50 up here, but it's part of this private class. I probably should go somewhere else. In the interest of finishing this, I want to multiply it by 50 here. But this is something I probably want to come back and abstract later because it's used more than just inside that private class anymore. Okay, so the last one, we need a public void set distance. Now we'll come back to this in a little bit. I want to test out the recovery, but I needed to write that because of my copy and pasting above. Okay, so reset, start. If I change the recovery time to be really low, then notice people get better faster. If I set my recovery time to be really long, 8 seconds, then these people who are red and infected are going to stay red and infected for a much longer time. Okay, good. So we've got that one working. Now, set distance here. We started the simulation before our original one with a very high number. Let's go back to Scene Builder and fix that up. And then let's program up the ramifications of distance. How can I change it so people can't travel very much? Okay, so back in Scene Builder, over here, I want to say your properties. What is my value when I get started? It's going to be 200. And that's going to start my slider over here. So if somebody just loads up my simulation, people can travel a very long way. Okay, so what does it mean to actually change the distance of how much they can travel? We have to go talk to the people. And we need to remember inside somewhere, probably the person, let's just keep everything nice here, public static int distance equals, we'll start off at 200 like we had before. Okay. That means we need to be in here saying person dot distance equals integer distance slider get value. Perfect. Okay, so a person has a distance. Now, this should be the distance they're allowed to travel from where they started in the simulation. To remember where they started, let's add a private position here called the origin. So as soon as we create their location, which is randomly assigned in the world, let's make origin equal a new position based on location get x and location dot get y. Now we can't just say this dot origin equals location, because location is going to be changing. And if location changes, then origin would be changing as well. This is making a deep copy of that, and so we have two objects, two positions, which start off at the same value, but location is going to be changing. As we call the move method down here, location is going to be moving. Okay, this is the second place we have to take this into account. We have to say, wait a second, I need to know the heading and the world here. I need to know what the origin was. Where was that person coming from? So let's add in a position origin inside the move method of the position. So there are two cases right now when we need to turn around. Our number is too small, or our number is too large, and we need a third one, right? Or I have traveled too far in terms of, I want to say, the distance to the origin is greater than the distance allowed. If that happens, turn myself around in the x direction. This is going to make a bounding box around our people. They can only go as far in the x and the y direction as their distance from that origin. Okay, same thing over here. We need to say, distance origin is greater than the person dot distance, then you need to turn around in the y direction. Okay, so let's see if we can get this up and running again and know that this is working for us. Okay, so reset, let's size it down to really small, and then we'll know if people start moving around. Oh, they are. They're moving in just a very small box. Now look, this infected person really can't communicate with anybody at all. Everybody's staying home. So if we start it off large, let's test it out, make sure, yes, people can still move around and the infection can still happen. Because we can drag it as we go, people are far away from home and they get kind of stuck in quarantine. Some people can still move, but if we shut it down, then nobody's moving. People are just recovering from where they are. Okay, this is great. This is what we want to do. The last thing we need to do over here is record the ticks. So let's go up and back to the controller. We need to think about where the ticks are coming from. They're coming from up here. Let's make a private integer number of ticks. Starts off at 0. And then every time we go through here, ticks plus plus. Now when we reset things, we should have a few methods down here. Public int get ticks, return ticks, public int or void reset ticks, and this should make the ticks equal to 0. Okay, so what does that mean? As we go through and run things, we should also be talking to the text field that we made. And that text field's name was tick text. Okay, so tick text equals, or tick text dot set text equals this plus ticks. Okay, so as we start it up again down here and when we reset, when we stop, we should make sure that we talk to the clock and say reset ticks. So that'll turn it back into 0. Okay, let's see what happens here. Probably a few things to fix, but getting much closer. Reset and start. Oh, I can see those ticks. If we stop it and reset it. See, I thought so. I was hoping that the ticks would turn back to 0, but they did not. As soon as I hit start, it goes. If we step, notice that we're not doing anything here. Where should that really be happening? It should be happening down in step. Down in step, we need to be talking and doing this part here. That's sort of something that happens here. When somebody hits that, I need to talk to the clock, make it tick. Clock.getTicks, and there is no method up there. Let's make a method for it. Public void tick, ticks plus plus. Let's replace this with tick. Turn it more abstract because I might want to do more things later, but this is going to be better for us. And I want to make sure that I do this when we get reset. So I'm going to reset the ticks. I'm going to set the ticks right here because we set it back to 0, and that should get everything going for us. Okay, reset. Hey, it's at 0. Start. People are moving around. If I say stop, and I say step, then I am still moving my ticks there. Good. Start. Here we go. And then reset. Ticks goes back to 0. Perfect. Everything is being changed here dynamically. And our simulation is stopping people from moving too much. Okay, great. Next time, we will talk about the graphs and charts, the histogram and the line graph as we are moving things over time. Great, making so much progress.